Hey guys, welcome back to Revolution XRC. Today I'm going to be going over a few updates that I have in store for my Axial UMG10. In this part of the series, we'll be exploring lengthening the wheelbase a little bit of the UMG10. As you know, the UMG10 is 11.4 inches in wheelbase, or 288 millimeters. Now I'm going to be extending that to a 12 inch or 305 millimeter wheelbase to give it a little bit more capability. And I'll be doing that with these Crawler Central Husky links. These are for the SCX-10-2 and they're for 305 millimeter wheelbase. So they're very solid and hefty as well. And you know, if you're familiar with axial rod ends, they're not the greatest. These are definitely going to be better. The other upgrade that I've got for this part of the series are the wheels and tires. Now, these are the stock MT45 tires and wheels, plastic beadlock wheels that come with the UMG10, and they look great, but the tire itself kind of left a little bit to be desired as far as performance goes. I felt like it was kind of like slick. It didn't have that much grip out there, and the wheels are plastic, so there's no heft to them, and this UMG10 rig could use a little bit more heft down low. Now I'll be upgrading the wheels and tires with these, which are the Proline Grunts. These are 1.9 tires. These are Proline Grunts. They're about, I think, 4.5 inches, around there somewhat. And these wheels are GRC beadlock wheels. Now they've got some heft to them, and they are military style, so they look great. And I'll put a link to these in the description below. Here's a closer look at the Proline Grunts with the GRC wheels. You can see that they have that military styling, which is really nice. And you can see here on the inside of the beadlock, it's not painted, but these are relatively hefty wheels, so some people may not like them because they don't want that rotating mass, but I feel like on this particular rig, it might help it out a little bit just to keep that center of gravity down low. So that's why I went with this. Another cool thing about these GRC wheels are that the hubcap cover for the MT4, the stock UMG10 wheels, actually fits and looks pretty nice with these GRC wheels. So they kind of look like they go together perfectly. Another reason I switched to these Proline Grunts is that I'm a real fan of the Proline G8 compound. I've had really good performance with it, or really good luck with it, and that G8 compound just seems to do really well where I am at. So once again, I'll put a link to these tires and these wheels in the description below, and let's move on to the links. Here you can see the stock kit links from the UMG10 kit. Now the UMG10 kit or SCX-10-2 kits, they have nicer links than the RTRs, so these links actually look pretty nice. It's just the rod ends that aren't the greatest. So one thing I will need to do in order to extend this wheelbase from 11.4 to 12 or 288 to 305 is that the rear tire will be extended further outward, so I will have to do a little bit of trimming on this rear fender here so that the tire will clear. So you're probably going to be going from about here to somewhere around there. So inside this Crawler Central Husky link kit, you'll see the lower rear links and upper rear links, as well as the lower and upper front links. So you get a total of 4 links for the rear, 3 links for the front, and some rod ends and metal balls. So it's another bonus. We'll be replacing the plastic pivot balls here, and you get the metal pivot balls with this kit. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is start building the links. If you don't have shock pliers, you should get a pair of these. They're really helpful and really easy to use. I'll put a link to this in the description below, but I am using the ProTech RC shock pliers. There you go. Alright, so let's take care of the front links first. I'll put that drive shaft back on when I loosen the other side. Now we move on to the rear links, and this is where the main difference in wheelbase will be between the 288mm and the 305. You can see here the main length compared to the stock ones. You can see how it pushes it out quite a bit. So the rear is definitely going to be pushed out quite a bit. You've got like that much of a difference right there. Once again, here you can see the difference in length between the stock links and these 305mm links. Right there. And there you go. We've got the rear links all put together and we're ready to put them on the truck. Oops, is it short link? Not quite intentional. Looks like I also need a longer drive shaft. So I'm gonna dig out some parts from my SCX2 kits, and it looks like I'll need a longer drive shaft for this. Okay, I've got some parts from my Cherokee XJ kit. You can see here that I am swapping from this part of the drive shaft to this longer one right here. And there's just a, don't know if you can see that as well. Maybe it might be a little bit better right here. And you can see how much it's like a little bit longer than the stock one for the 11.4 or 11, yeah, 11.4 inch wheelbase. You also see the drive shaft spine. The stock one is right here, and I'm going to be replacing it with this longer one right here. And you can see the difference in between the two. Now here you can see the difference between the stock one and the one I'm eventually going to use. Let me just check to make sure they're in phase. It's going to be a little difficult. Yep. Both lined up. Cool. Got it in one shot. Alright, we finished installing all the links, and now let's go ahead and check out the wheelbase. Now that we have the wheelbase extended out to 305 millimeters, you can now see that the rear fender no longer has clearance with the rear wheel or tire. There, you can see the tire sits too far back in that wheel well, and so it'll hit that rear fender right there. Most people, when they extend the wheelbase of the UMG10, they just cut this piece right here. They cut the piece of the fender off, or they just do away with this fender completely. I do not want to do that. I want to try to save it. So I'm going to have some parts that would hopefully let me extend that, at least the body portion, to fit the 305 millimeter wheelbase. So you can see here the issue with it right there. Alright, here are the extra pieces that I've acquired or 3D printed out to be able to stretch the body to fit the 305 millimeter wheelbase. So I've got an extra cage support right here, or the base of the cage. I've also printed out a rear cage mount and brace. This will make the chassis less flexy. It'll give more rigidity to the chassis, as well as moving the hinge mount further backward in order for me to fit that 305mm wheelbase. So I'll make these files available on Thingiverse, and I'll put a link to them in the description below. But this is my first design print, so kind of excited to get into this. These here are spacers that I've created so that when I double up this cage with the existing one right here, that it gives the required space in between the frame right here to give me that extra distance to the cab. So I will also make these available on Thingiverse, and I'll put a link to those in the description as well. You also need longer screws. These are the original 4 across the horizontal of the cage right there. You'll need longer ones because of the doubled up, this piece being doubled up, so you'll need it longer. Right here in my hand I have an M3 by 35. This will fit this section right here. M3 by 30 might fit, but it might be a little bit, it might be cutting it close a little bit. You'll also need longer ones up here, and I'm going to just repurpose these that were across here for the top over there. So the most important thing is you'll probably need M3 by 35. Possibly you can get away with M3 by 30, but you'll need M3 by 35. You'll also need to get longer screws for these two right here at the bottom. Alright, so I've got the cage removed from the cab right here. The first couple of screws that I'm gonna take care of are these 4 points right here. So let's go ahead and remove those. Alright, so what I want to do here, I have a couple of these spacers right here. Let me see, not the right ones. These right here. So these spacers that I printed up right here, you're going to want to cover these on the new part of the cage. You'll see I already did one. You'll see how it fits on there. So I want to take care of these 4. Alright, so that should prep me for being able to attach the 4 across here later on. Right now, I'm going to take care of these. And so I have 5 of these that I printed out. And these are the ones that you want to use on the outer edge. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. A little bit of stringing going on, but it's okay. Alright, so those 5 should go out on the inside of this extra cage here. Like that. Now I did make the holes 3mm, so you will have to kind of thread the screw into them. In hindsight, I should probably have made the hole a little bit larger, but it's okay. Alright, looks like they're not gonna stick there, but I can just screw this in right now. And so you want to take these 4 screws that were originally used to go across here to use on the outer edge. The center one I'll take care of later. We'll use the longer one for that one because we're going to actually use that with the cab. So let's try one here. Like I said, I'm going to have to thread this in first. I'm going to attach these to the cage, or using the cage, and so this all out here. It does be awesome. Take off. Right now, before I screw this all in, this is right here. I can't do this right because the other side screws goes like that, but it's once in place so it doesn't fall out. Keep making sure everything lines up. Okay, so you can see here doubling up on this part of the cage here gives me that added length that I need to hopefully line up the rear fender with the new 305mm wheelbase. And it doesn't look too bad either. I mean, it just looks like a normal doubled up rear part of the cage. So that's what I'm shooting for. And now we're gonna start attaching the cab to this assembly right here. Alright, the next step we're gonna do is to join these two halves together. We're gonna take care of these 4 screws here first. Once again, I recommend M3 by 35 screws to be able to have that length in order to go all the way through, but you could probably get away with M3 by 30. Alright, off the camera I put in the other one right here. There's 2 more right here. Unfortunately, I didn't have an extra 2 M3 by 30s or M3 by 35s in order to put these 2 in. So I'll move on to this one right now and come back to this later when I can acquire those screws. So for these 2 last screws, you'll use the last set of spacers that I created. And once again, I'll put these in the description below when I post them up on Thingiverse. And here are the original screws. They're short. Alright, I'm back. I was able to source some M3 by 30 screws and M3 by 20 screws right here. So I'll use the M3 by 30 to finish off the center portion and the M3 by 20s to finish off the sides here. And if you don't have these screws, I'll put a link to them in the description below for the various links that you need to do this. Never got one side. One more to the other side. Alright, I've gotten this taken care of. Now it's time to move to the ones in the center. There, you can see that the double rib is all secured, and the last thing left is to secure this cab, which is not part of the original mounting position, but I added this just because it gives it a little bit more rigidity for the cab. Right there. So let me go ahead and add that. Alright, I forgot to put the interior in before securing these 4 screws, so make sure you put the interior in before you do that. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up attaching these 2 screws for the windshield wipers, and when I'm done with that, we'll be right back, and I'm gonna show you how I mount this to the chassis. Alright, I've got the interior all mounted up, and you can see here that this is now a double bar support on this rear cage here. It looks pretty well integrated. It looks like it meshes pretty well. You know, it looks pretty normal. Doesn't look out of the ordinary, which is what I was looking for. And this should give me the extra length I need to be able to line this rear fender up with the rear tire because I extended the wheelbase. Now for the rear hinge, I will be using this bracket that I designed and printed up. And you can see here that it's extended out a little. Here's the hinge, little holes for the LED lights. Alright, let's see how this fits. can see here how it fits there. I'm going to use the original screw for the original bracket, and I'm actually going to need another set of these over here because I actually the original one only used these two holes. I added this one here just to give it a little bit more rigidity to the chassis. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm going to find another two screws for this hole right here, and I'll be right back. Alright, as I said earlier, I'm going to add another screw to this brace. Alright, so our mounting bracket is in place and we're ready to remove the original hinge from the body and start using this new hinge slash chassis brace. You can also see here that it's stiffened up this area of the chassis quite a bit. Can't flex it anymore, so that's good. Alright, here is the original body mount hinge that I've removed from the body, and now we're going to attempt to mount the body now. There you go. There is the new chassis brace slash body hinge. And let's see how everything lines up. Everything lines up perfectly. As you can see here, the front, I don't know if you can see that, but the front mount lines up. And you can see here the rear wheel, the rear fenders clear the tires just fine now. And this is all on a 305mm wheelbase. You can see the double bar here. And it turned out great. Alright, here's a final look at the UMG10 with a 305mm wheelbase. You can see here I was able to keep the rear fenders because I extended this cage with a double bar right here. I also 3D printed a rear bracket to extend the hinge mount further back. And you can see here that everything works perfectly. So this is what I've done to be able to keep the rear fenders on with the 305mm wheelbase. I hope you enjoyed this upgrade episode of my UMG10. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for further updates on this UMG10. Thanks for watching.